So more problem solving. After the last video, I got asked a question which that's all well and good, but what are the tools? How do you problem solve? Like, what's the mechanism that you use? And there's a lot of answers to that question because there's some really good formalized process and then there's some very, very simple. And what tool you use depends on the size of the problem. So for example, there's some really powerful tools called the Toyota A3 storyboard, there's the Ford 8D, there's Lean Six Sigma, and it's got DMAIC, define, measure, analyze, improve, control. Very formalized, very powerful for big process issues, and I use that one quite a lot. And then you've got Kaizen, a very simplified version of that. And then you've got GE, have their own, they're called Workout, and they do blitzes over maybe a 5-day period. But they're for big problems, and as I said, the size of the problem determines the size of the tool you use. So for example, DMAIC, I've worked in companies where problems existed for years. And the reason why they existed for years is because people protected it, because people in the business made it about the people, not the process issue. And people were in fear for their jobs if they owned up to having a problem in their area. And that fear was very real because of the style of management. So certain tools are very powerful for certain size of problems. But what I want to do now is just go through a simplified version, because a lot of problems you can solve quickly. And I've talked about in the last video that some companies really put a lot of emphasis on the people to learn problem solving skills. Simple ones that they can do problem solving on the fly. So for example, right, one of the main things I do in this is look at making sure we know the problem. So forget about all the big fancy tools. There's two key areas I want to focus on now. And one is making sure you have the right problem to solve, and then how do you solve the problem, okay? Because if I go into a company and I ask 10 different stakeholders what's the biggest issue in the business, I'll get 10 different answers. Because that's a perspective view I'm getting, which is very important. But there's no point in me going off and saying, okay, let's do a solution on that. Because one of the things I hear a lot is, Shay, we're just filled with capacity, we need more people. And that's usually a point of cause issue. And then the knee-jerk reaction is to get more people, but the problem's still there, and they grow because you have more people, more problems, right? So what I try and then work is to get to the root cause, and I can only do that based on good data. So I have a little tool that I like to use. It involves W's, right? So it's called the 5 W's and 1 H, and this helps you get to a very specific problem statement. Now, it may be a case where you have to do this multiple times on multiple different perspective issues to get to the biggest one. But that's okay. It's always important to gather a little bit of data first so you know you're solving the right problem. So what are the 5 W's, 1 H's? Well, you start off, what is the problem, okay? What is the problem? Define the problem. What is the problem? And you could say, for example, well, I was supposed to deliver 30 products to my customer last week. I only got 28. That's the problem. Then you go, why was there a problem? Well, I left my customer short. And then you can expand on that because there's now issues with customer satisfaction. Can you deliver more and make up for it? Are you short materials, or whether you don't know what the problem was, but you are concerned that you've reduced your customer relationship, right? So you have to build that back up, right? So you talk about the what is the problem, why is it a problem, where did the problem happen? And it's not about who caused the problem, because we don't come into that. You talk about who is the problem for, and here it's the customer. You never talk about who caused it, because that's finger pointing and blame game. We don't do that. There's no such thing as blame game. It's about how can we work together to make it better. So we have the what, the why, the who, the when, and then also the where did the problem happen. What part of the business was it? Part of your business, or it could be a supplier issue, where? And then once you've done those 5 W's, then you talk about, well, H, how much is the problem? How much is it a problem? How big is it a problem? And how much is the problem costing us? Both internally in operations, the cost to the customer, and then also on the other intangible side where it talks about customer relationship satisfaction and experience. And is a case where you could lose a customer because you let them down. Maybe it wasn't the first time. So this tool helps me get very specific about what problem I'm looking to solve, which is so important. Otherwise, you could go down a rabbit hole and be solving the wrong problems. This helps you get specific, right? And again, as I said, you might have to do a number of these 5 W1H to get to the right problem. You may want to size them multiple. If you have 5 key issues, let's size them all and find out which is the biggest one we must solve today. okay? And then once you've done that, and then once you know where was the problem, you know the people in your business that you need to bring involved to solve it, right? So that's key. So it helps you get specific about who's going to help you fix it. So once you do that, a very simple tool I like to use, without all the sort of formalities around it, if you want to really get something quick and results quick, there's more W's, right? And it's called the 5 whys. Now, one thing I always ask to like my sort of workshop attendees or whoever I'm working with, do they know what the 5 whys are? Have they heard of it? And they go, no. And I said, do you have kids? And they go, yes. Well, they do why to infinity. Kids are amazing at asking this question why, and they keep asking until they fully understand what you're talking about. We've lost this ability as adults, but it's such a powerful tool when you put it in perspective. So what does that look like? I'm going to give you a very simple example, right? So I was late for work, and then you ask, well, why was I late for work? Well, my alarm clock didn't go off. And you go, why did my alarm clock not go off? Well, the alarm clock was dead. Why was the alarm clock dead? Because I didn't change the batteries, or the batteries were dead. So why did I let the batteries die? Because I didn't think of it. And that's usually that's the last why you can get to. And usually they say it takes on average 5. Ask the question why 5 times before you get to the root cause of the issue. And in this case, batteries were dead. We can't go any further, right? So then what is the solution? How do you start thinking about the solution then? Well, you could say, first of all, well, you know, I'll just change the batteries. And that's okay. That's called a corrective action, right? And there's 2 elements to a solution, the corrective and the preventive action. So yeah, you can put batteries in it to solve the problem right now, to stop the bleed, as we say. But that's going to happen again further down the road. So it's not a permanent or preventive measure going forward. So you could say, well, you know what? I'm going to get an alarm clock that has a cable, it's powered in, it's plugged in all the time, or just use my phone that's plugged in every night. So that never happens, right? And that's what we call a preventative action, and then that means that problem will never happen again. So there's 2 elements to the solution: corrective, stop the bleed, make sure you can start satisfying your customer again, and then, well, while you just stop the bleed, well, how can I work on a more permanent fix? And we call it that the 100-year fix in industry. And that is a very simple and powerful way. So if you really want to do something quickly and you knew you have issues, make sure you put boundaries around that issue statement, problem statement, so it's specific. It's not just listening to perspectives. You have specific data, size of the problem, where did it happen, what was the problem, why was the problem, and how much did it cost. Okay, and then you go into that troubleshooting process, 5 whys, to get to the root cause, and then you find, well, what is the solution to that? Both in corrective to stop the bleed, get things moving again, and then the more permanent fix so it never happens again. And if you did this on all your issues, your problems are reducing cumulatively over the course of the year. So your performance is cumulatively improving over the course of the year. So from day 1 to day 365, you made substantial improvements through the course of your business. I hope this makes sense. I hope this helped. If you have any questions about applying this to your business, just please get in touch. I would love to help. And in the meantime, this is Shaylin saying, have a great day.